Brad Pritchett, Medusa. Today I'll be going over Medusa, a brute forcer. It comes pre-installed in Kali Linux and Mac OS. What is Medusa? Medusa is a brute forcer that's made to be parallel, modular, and speedy. So what those all mean I'll get to in a little bit, but modular means that you don't have to add any external stuff. Speedy means it's fast, and parallel means that it can run consecutively on multiple hosts. The purpose is not to be secret or behind the scenes. It's meant to be focused and loud, so if anybody's watching their network, they're probably going to see suspicious activity. And it's performed across a large number of protocols that include, but not to the fullest extent, Telnet, HTTP, HTTPS databases, and I will get to more later in the video at the end of the PowerPoint. Flexible user input. Flexible user input is just whether you can enter in the command line a string or a number of strings, so it allows for both. What is Medusa? What are the fine details, more or less? It is thread-based parallel testing, which means it can be tested on multiple hosts concurrently. So you could have a host file, and it can be testing against all of them at once. It has flexible user input, so like I was saying earlier, it could be a single input or a large text file, both via the command line, since Medusa is a command line software. And then it's modular design, which means all modules are stored as a .mod file, so there's no modifications necessary to cross all the protocols. So like HTTP and HTTPS, you would not have to go out and get anything else for it to run. And it's also built for simplicity, so everything is command line based, as you will see later. And the syntax is basically exactly how you would picture it. Any basic command line prompt should be just fine. Why Medusa? Why is Medusa a liable option? Bad passwords are the downfall of most end users. So as a network admin, your end user is probably one of your higher priorities. They say 3 out of 4 use passwords that they've had for the last 5 years. The typical password, or the most common password, is 123456, so that is 6 numbers right in a row. So that's extremely easy to guess. Password requirements are the downfall of most sites. Some websites have minimalistic complexity requirements due to frustration of customers. Some have none at all. They can range from 6 characters to 6 characters alphanumeric with special characters. Password expiration, basically saying how often does your password expire. So most have a month or a quarter, where some don't have any at all, which is most available web applications create users for these days. And then old password reuse is basically saying how often can you use a password you've already used. So there's a lot that don't have any, so you could switch between the 2 passwords. Otherwise, some have 5, so up to 5 passwords in the history of your passwords, or 8. So the higher, obviously, the more strong they are and the less frequent they're used. Word list. Word list is a text file of strings commonly used for usernames, passwords, and can also contain hosts. So like we were talking about with that parallel testing, you can have a word list with multiple hosts in there to test them all. You can build your own or pull one that's pre-populated from a common word list repository. So there are multiple word list repositories out there for you to grab. Some are very, very, very large. I will mention some of those in a little bit here. And then multiple variations of the same password. So users tend to variate the same password over and over again when their password expiration date comes up. So testing football with 2 O's instead of, or 2 zeros instead of O's, and 2 1s instead of L's. So this is going to be a large portion of your word list is going to be repetitive passwords variated multiple times. So here I'm going to generate a word list. I'm going to use LeafPad, and I'm going to copy and paste in a partial word list that I already grabbed. I'm going to leave it small so to save time due to the video, but I'm going to call it passwordlist.txt and then save it to my desktop for easy grab. And then there is the word list, and there it is on my desktop. Next, I'm going to tell you about brute forcing. So what is brute forcing? Brute forcing is a trial and error method used by application programs to decode encrypted data such as passwords or data encryption standards. So this would be a lot like hunter and pecking until you find the needle in the haystack. Brute forcing is also called exhaustive key search. Examples of running time on a Medusa password crack. So a complex password would be 8 characters, LM-DES, unanumeric, 1 day, 8 hours. Medium, 6 characters, MD5, numeric, 7 minutes, 12 seconds. And then a very simple password like the ones we're running today, 6 characters, SHA-1, alpha, minute, 2 seconds. Keep in mind that all these are times with encryption, so I'm running them without encryption, so we should be even less time. Next, I'm going to show you what running a Medusa attack looks like. I'm going to pull in a password list that I previously created and then run against a web application that I have available. Alright, so I'm going to open up Medusa since it comes pre-installed in Kali. It's already there. All it's going to do is open a command line for me because that Medusa is a command line software. But I opened it because I want to see the syntax or the basic syntax of Medusa, so I can follow that as I'm trying to enter in my own information. So I'm going to open up that second command line and start typing in. Every Medusa command starts with Medusa. And then I'm going to add a singular host. I'm not going to add a file, so it's a lowercase h. Next, I need to add the username. The web application already added or gave me a username, that Dorizi right there. So I'm going to use that lowercase u and enter in that string so it knows what username to use. Last is the password file. So I'm going to use a capital P since it's an actual file that I'm pulling in. And then I'm going to grab that file and I'm going to copy and paste it from the desktop by dragging it so I don't have to give the direct path. Lastly, I'm going to enter in the modules. So I'm going to use the capital M for the module, and then HTTP and HTTPS are your modules that I'm going to be using to test against this web application because those are directly integrated with the web app. And then I'm going to run it. But be aware that the syntax, according to the command prompt, it starts with the capital M, does not, it starts with a lowercase. So from the results, I can see that Medusa found an account on that host with the username Dorizi and the password of password, and it was a success. So that means that Medusa did its job and found a password that works. Next, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use a username list. So let's try this with the usernames. So it's going to be passwords and usernames in a list, so it's going to be the same command, but instead of a lowercase u, it's going to be an uppercase U for a file. So when I run it, it's going to take just a small bit longer because it's checking against all those usernames now as well. And then there's going to be a lot of successes based on that web application has been registered for multiple times. So there's pretty much a variation of every single username. Uses internally. So internal audits, running a brute forcer against your end users would be one way to test your password strength for software that may not use complexity requirements, like internal software or like firewall software, pfSense, stuff like that. So you can generate the usernames based off your domain, so you should already have their usernames. Then you can test against their password strengths using online word lists, and if any of them match, they technically fail. I would run this on a monthly, quarterly basis to keep track of end users and keep them on track as well. I know auditors are going to want to see you're doing things to track your end users, so this would be a good report to show them as well when they come to audit the business. Here is a pre-generated word list, or word list, I mean. These are the ones I found online. I used a portion of that huge word list, a very small portion, because it contains 3.5 million strings, and I used maybe 20. Rocku.txt is a very slimmed down, more common word list. Outpost 9 word list is multiple word lists. It's a compilation of all of them, and then Metasbits is 194 megabytes of the most common passwords of all those lists combined into 194 megabytes. So that one would be a good one to use as well. I want to thank you